Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it. We come down live, and I say to myself, what a bummer of a fight. Man, oh man, we have a lot more to talk about than this. I'll tell you that. Man. Anyway, thank you people for watching this video. There is a lot more to it than says the eye, guys. And what I have to say about it, it has to come down to the bottom line. Depending on what promotion you're from, and the most important thing is, do you have what it takes to be world champion? Do you have what it takes to perform in the biggest arenas of all time? That does depend when it comes down to the wire, guys. And I have to say, there's more to this when they meets the eye as we're talking about this live. But man, not just someone can even talk about this, but man. So ladies and gentlemen, we're coming down live, ladies and gentlemen. For information-wise, guys, on May the 2nd, we have David Benavidez versus Gilberto Ramirez, which states for WBO Cruiserweight Championship. I do got to look up if the WBA belt is still on the line for Gilberto, and it is, which does not show on BoxRec. Still trying to see if we could get information for any of the other weight classes, but we'll have to wait until that time comes. But again, I really can't say for certain if any of this is going to happen. Like, these fights may happen, but again, they might not. Depend on who you ask. But again, depending on who you ask, what might happen next month, who knows? Because we're only over 2 weeks away. Like, we still have a couple weeks left until this fight happens. And with other buildups from Jose Armando Resendez taking on Jaime Munguia for the WBA Super Middleweight Championship belt, with Jose being ranked as champion on January the 1st, as said before, when Terrence Crawford decided to retire the belt for good by the end of the year. And with everything else, with two undefeated fighters, with Isaac Lequero, who's an 18-0 Mexican fighter from America, with Alan Sandova, also a Mexican fighter with a 30-0-1 record. It's going to be interesting because one is ranked number 12 with 18, and the other one has over 30 fights in his career, and he's ranked 204. But in all hindsight, guys, even though these guys are both ranked into the super welterweight, so on paper, you think this might be a good fight, but when you even look up the resume of Allen, Allen's career, of his winning career, is not on fire. He's been fighting a lot of nobody fighters. He was the WBC Fekar Box welterweight champion in 2020 with only over a year into his career. When he started back in 2019, he was the Mexican Pacific Coast welterweight champion. And he was going to fight for a super lightweight champion, which suffered his first professional draw by a split decision by two judges going for one each other, and the other had a draw. And that fighter he fought had a 6-1 record, which was a better record for other fighters he had. So yeah, so fortunately, this guy's record is the most lousiest pick ever. So this is more than, I wouldn't call this a cherry pick, other than this is just a guy. This is a hype job. And again, this guy has fought a good amount of fights, so I gotta give him credit. He's fought for 7 years right now. His last fight was in February the 22nd, but now he's fighting his first legit opponent against Isaac Lequero. Again, both fighters, who knows what's going to happen. Oscar Duarte Gerardo is going to have his fight against a guy named Angel Fiera Barrera. And this guy that fought formally against Ryan Garcia back in December of 2023, about the same year when Ryan lost against Gervonta Davis, was sufferable enough. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen when that time comes. But for now, there is more to it than meets the eye. And Oscar De La Hoya Promotions has been pushing a lot of effort here. Like, Oscar De La Hoya has already put in a lot of work right now this year. He managed to start off a couple shows in California in January, went to Las Vegas for the Ring High Stakes in February the 21st, with the Gary Russell and Andy Hiroka fight and Mario Barrios versus Ryan Garcia title fight. So he managed to up that is pretty good. And last month ago on March the 14th, he had Oscar Collazo, Jesus Haro fight with Gabriela Fundora defeating Viviana Ruiz Corredor in a round 6 KO for retaining her flyweight titles. So yeah, so he's firing up pretty good for what it is. But guys, the real story does come down to his career in boxing, because from 1992 to 2008, the guy's career has been questioned. He's had a lot of controversies in his career, and even though coming by the end of the 90s, when he was a 31-0 fighter, he lost against Felix Trinidad, makes me want to talk more about other stuff than we've already talked about. And nothing more could be said about his controversial decisions and other fights that he might have won and might have not won, and fights he utterly lost horribly. Like, I can even say that even by 2007, when he lost against Mayweather, who knows? But again, his 16-year pro career should have been 15 years. Like, I think after the Mayweather fight, it was better for him to not continue boxing after that. But again, he had one more year, won a fight, lost against Pacquiao, and that was it. But the real story, guys, we are going to talk about is June the 5th, 2004, live in the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada, by promoter Bob Arum and Brad Goodman, live on Germany ZDF USA HBO pay-per-view. This show rocks. For all the wrong reasons and for all the wild reasons, this show might have not been that good from the start, but man, it's not as terrible than I would have thought to myself. But again, guys, for the next hour, I decided to go back to the old days of Oscar De La Hoya, and this is why I'm reviewing this show from its entirety. Now, guys, the build-up for this show, we are coming live, known as Collision Course. The pay-per-view Collision Course, which is on June the 5th, builds up the main event for WBO middleweight title, which is still a minor weight belt at the time, while other title fights were coming on big for undisputed middleweight championship fight coming from the other main event at the time. So you can tell that there is more to this than meets the eye. But again, there is more to this. So guys, the aftermath and the whole background of this show, that after following the controversy of the loss against Shane Mosley that cost him his WBA and WBC super welterweight titles in September of 2003, Oscar announced his intentions to move up to middleweight in the division to challenge for undefeated WBO champion Felix Sturm. So he's already fighting for his 6th weight class at the time, even though we're only a couple years away, like a few years away until 2007, when the WBO belt would be a major. And information here would also show as Triple Crown champions. But mostly, what's interesting, guys, when you look up the list of sextuple champions, which is another word for 6 weight class divisions, 2 have managed to make it over, for De La Hoya and Pacquiao. Now, De La Hoya became WBO super featherweight champion in 1994. He became the WBO lightweight in 1995. And he even won the IBF belt a few months later, came out a year later in June of 96 to become the one and only super lightweight champion. 1997, his Parnell Whitaker fight was a lot surprising than how he defeated Jose Cesar Chavez for the WBC super welterweight championship. He wins the welterweight champion against Parnell Whitaker a year later in 97, and he's already on the top. Now, he did take time. He's taken some losses. He won the super lightweight champion against Javier Castillejo in 2001. He even went on to unify other belts for WBC and even the WBA from other belts. He had to win back his WBC welterweight twice after Contender. So, and he was the Ring Magazine in 2002 as well after his Fernando Vargas fight with his WBA. So those are his 5 weight classes. The problem is his first 2, the super featherweight and the lightweight, weren't much. So at this time, he was considered as a 3 weight class champion. So I really can't say he was legit, but again, I really can't say it was terrible. Pretty much. But again, there is more to this one than meets the eye. So technically, with all that being said, they decided to plan the fight while they were going to decide to put Bernard Hopkins and De La Hoya, as they agreed to take part in a joint double heater for the pay-per-view event. Broadcast by HBO, dubbed as Collision Course, as said before, Hopkins would first take on his mandatory challenger for his 3rd trilogy fight against Robert Allen. Now, if you guys don't remember about the story about this trilogy is the worst. One of the top 5 worst. So, of course, after he became a world champion and even tried to fight back for world champions in 95, he managed to hold back his belts as much as he could in middleweight. But after his first meeting in August of 98, when Hopkins was then able to continue after Mills Lane accidentally shoved him out by pushing him out of the ring after trying to break up an ugly clinch against him and Robert Allen. And after coming almost before the end of round 4, they had the fight as a no contest, which stinks. But again, Hopkins would try to recover from it, come back in February of 99 to score a round 7 TKO against Robert Allen. And for the next 3 title defenses by 99 and 2000, he would come out with Keith Holmes for the WBC belt, but then have the belt vacant for some reason. And, well, not vacant, I meant to say. He won in April of 2001 due to the tournament they had. And he took on Felix Trinidad in September, 2 weeks after 9/11, and they got the build-up. And before you know it, that was the whole show for it. So Bernard, this old past prime fighter, was 36 years old. He managed to, it took him over 13 years to make it to the big time, and he finally defended it a bunch of times. And now he has guys like such as Carl Daniels and Morade Hacker. But unfortunately, after his 12-round fight against William Joppy, the rest of his entire career would end in decisions. Like, he would never score another knockout for a while, and never will again, or by 2004. So at this moment, he has 31 knockouts, and technically, he's going to get one more sooner, but unfortunately, by the end of 2004, and for the next 12 years in his career, by 2016, he would have 0 knockouts. So I can't really say much about that, but again, it's not the end of the world, but quite frankly, it's not if any of this is going to go horribly wrong. Because at this moment, guys, Hopkins is 39 years old, and at this moment, with Felix Sturm, that's 25 years old, a German fighter, 31-year-old Oscar De La Hoya, it's not terrible than you think. So the build-ups of these fights are just going straight in for the collision course, and that's what this whole thing is. So with all that being said, this is how the show starts out. So the first fight of competition I tried to look up as best I could was a guy that was 15-0 versus another guy with a 10-0 record in an 8-round fight, as it was mostly just a normal good boxing fight. And technically, the fight was dubbed as mostly Almazbek Ray Mukulov, 15-0, taking on Ray Narth. So Ray Mukulov is from Kyrgyzstan, living in the USA, and he's already trying to build up his run, while Ray Narth, living from Ghana, as born in Ghana. Both of these guys are in the USA, and man, oh man, I can't really say much about this one. It was a doozy. So this first fight comes out as just an easy build-up. Now, guys, there is footage of a person outside of the crowd for the fight, of the start of this fight. But again, as trying to find its way towards the light, quite frankly. I tried to find mostly footage of something around here, but no one could ask if there were footage of this fight. All we know is there were mostly other information of other fights against these two guys, unfortunately, but when trying to, like I said before, there were states that there was a chance that there were fights against these two guys. But again, I can't really say for certain. There is outside footage of Mukolov taking on Antonio DeMarco of an outside camera footage. And there's also another fight that was uploaded with Ray Narth a while back by a YouTuber in 2013 for a USBA champion. But unfortunately, technically, I really can't find footage of this fight, unfortunately. All I know is this fight ended in 2 minutes and 52 seconds of the first round by KO. Someone's though had to go, and Mukulov won the fight easily. Ray Narth went on into his career with that sufferable loss, and he started to win a lot more fights by his time until he lost against a Mike Alvarado, a 29-0 fighter, by the end of the year, who was also a promising contender that fought for the WBO World Super Lightweight Champion. And I think someone said that he was the interim champion because he won it back in 2013 in March. But information does show that mostly it was Alvarado's first title defense. So, but again, with all that being said, I can't say much about those fights. His loss against Ray Robinson was shown on a short video. Jesse Vargas, it was nothing much. While Ray Mukulov, on the other hand, he would go on to dominate fights. But unfortunately, after his Joe Casamassa fight for the WBC lightweight title eliminator, which ended in a split decision draw, and even most fans all judged, and a lot of them have judged it to be an interesting fight, with mostly a majority of the rounds winning dominantly by Joe Casamassa, after it say that he scored a first round knockout and went on to as my opinion states that he might have had the fight won 114 to 113. Information wise stated that one judge had it 115 to 112, the other had it 116 to 111, favoring Kulov, while the 115 to 112 for Joel. But the third judge here states his name is Luis Rivera, had it 114 even. So technically, some skeptics believe that round 10, which was a tough round to judge, was the factor of why that person gave a 10-10 score for the heck of it and just gave it away. Or maybe the person scored as a 10-9 round. I haven't seen the footage, even though it was live on USA HBO for the build-up, and technically that was the same. Mostly that was a different night at the time. Wait, I don't know how to explain it. Like, this was the same night when Miguel Cotto was defending out his WBO super lightweight title fight when he was 23-0 at the time. So, but then went on in October to lose in a last round, 10th round knockout against Nate Campbell and got demolished. And, well, his career died after his DeMarco fight in 2009. So, all I can say is these guys might have had nothing worth. The second fight on the show, which I guess there was no fight card as online videos on YouTube are not found. Kingsley Aikik versus Alfredo Cuvas. 19-1 versus 23-6-1. Yeah, again, guys, I can't find footage of this fight. All the information says here on BoxRec states that Alfredo suffered an accidental headbutt. The referee, Toby Gibson, while Jay Nady was the first referee on the show. Toby Gibson stopped the fight after the end of 8 rounds by the doctor advised, so they went to a technical decision for Kingsley to win his 20th fight with his one professional loss. But again, his career would try to go on differently by 2005. He would go for an IBF middleweight title eliminator, which he would win, but lose against Arthur Abraham in December. And then 2 years later, coming back, he lost against John Pascal, a 17-0 fighter. And that was the end of his career there. So, again, I can't say much about that. At least he had a title fight, so I can't argue about that. All right. So finally, we're coming down to the main event, ladies and gentlemen, for competition. We have 2 Mexican fighters, Jose Luis Castillo versus Juan Lazcano. This fight is a doozy. This fight is one of a doozy fights here, and information-wise, say what you want to, because I will say, though, this does have some interesting goodies here. The entire fight's pretty damn good. So, technically, information. 2 Mexican fighters for the vacant WBC and Ring Magazine lightweight title fights. And most importantly, Castillo is still trying to make a 3-club winning streak here after his major losses against Floyd Mayweather twice in 2002. One of them that was controversial due to a broken hand on Mayweather and the point deduction and other stuff. Only for the rematch that year just ended up badly. So he's trying to make some interesting stuff here. He's coming out with a knockout streak in 2003 with a couple wins and one early in February. So he's already trying to build things up. While Juan, on the other hand, is trying to build up his career back. Because he's a longtime fighter from 1993. He was a WBF World Lightweight Championship in the minor. He lost against a guy named Golden Johnson, which is a pretty interesting name. And even though he was an IBA World Lightweight Champion, so he has won minor weight belts, but he has never fought for a title in his life. His win against Stevie Johnston in September last year by the build-up card for Shane Mosley versus the Oscar De La Hoya fight that same night. That fight went on by the WBC lightweight title eliminator, where Juan won the fight by a late round 11 TKO victory to seal the deal for this fight. And not only that, but a Ring Magazine title. So that's what we're seeing here. And mostly, in my opinion, these guys are on fire. So Jose Luis is 30 years old. Juan is 29 years old. Both of them are orthodox fighters. Juan has a 72-inch reach advantage, 5'9", while 5'7.5", 69 reach advantage for Luis. And most importantly, both guys are wearing white trunks. White trunks for both. And with the build-up, and both of them took their time getting to the center of the ring. I believe that the one in the green, wearing green red straps of the belt, might be in my opinion, Castillo. I think no. I remember the trunk. I remember because Castillo was wearing red stripes while Juan was wearing all white. So it was hard to tell who was fighting because they're both wearing different same colored trunks, but one was wearing a red strap, or red line around. So it was interesting. So both guys fight each other in their orthodox style, and they're both going clockwise the entire fight for the first. And I can't say much about the first round. Both guys were building themselves up, and building it up as, I would just say that they were taking it over as best they could. So the commentators point out that Castillo is coming into the fight as it's not its great post for him. And then they point out mostly for the first round has been mostly gone forward to apply pressure for Juan. And in addition to everything, they even point out that it's big for a middleweight that doesn't have such a big body in mostly. I'm assuming that's what someone said, but some people were I don't know. I don't know if it was closed captions or something. I was reading closed captions mostly. But mostly, guys, the first rounds were mostly jabbings, and it was interesting enough, and both guys settled the deal for the first, and it wasn't all terrible. You come into the next couple rounds, and even though, take it for what you will, Juan gets the first round, in my opinion. Even the Letterman score gave it to him as well. The second round comes in, and mostly Castillo does manage to get some stuff done in. He manages to throw good jabs, block some punches, even duck some punches. There were clinches at the time. Oh, yeah, and by the way, guys, the referee's name, by the way, is Tony Weeks. I'm sure I don't have to explain who Tony Weeks is. He has a lot of interesting information about him. That's all I can tell you guys. But, of course, it's not about the referee, but mostly the punching. So we do get body punches in the seconds of the second round, and they were mostly building up a good start for each round. So Luis gets the second round, and as they go to the corner, they're already building up another fight on July the 31st for Eric Morales versus Carlos Hernandez fight, live at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And with all this being said, they're already trying to build up other sensibles for other things. About 50 or so seconds in the third round, there was a lot of pushing, grabbing and such, and pushing to the ring. And of course, at this moment, it's not I was finding this fight boring, but man, the third round became a great round for Castillo. With 1 minute left of the round, he starts pushing, aggressively being the aggressor of the third round. And of course, he was managing to put in some great offensive work and some aggressiveness in the fight. So they cut backstage and they see, as with all this being said, they cut backstage. They cut backstage for Sturm, for De La Hoya arriving to the arena with a short time for his fight with Felix Sturm. They also pointed out that the afterthought of the last 48 hours with the controversy in Vegas has been swirling around Hopkins and his threat to pull out of the fight. So the announcers have already talked about that there is moments of something of pulling out of the fight. I didn't know the information when looking that up, but again, something is happening as we speak. We don't know much about it. All we know is his opponent, Robert Allen, is going to get his third trilogy fight, and maybe that might be the reason why. He just doesn't like him. So we come to the fourth round, and again, just like the fifth round, it wasn't like there was clinching, grabs, but mostly there were jabs, punches, and stuff. But I just felt like this fight just seemed a little bit not as entertaining for me. Like they come in, they cut the commercial break, they come back from commercial break, and again, there are times that, again, it was just mostly jabs, throws, and charging. And again, it was like Luis was on his game plan that night. It was like, don't get me wrong, guys. There were moments that, because guys, in the fifth round, it wasn't, they were throwing punches. And even though Castillo was, again, like, don't get me wrong, Juan was throwing punches as well. Like, if I had to count how many punches they were throwing total, I would say they were throwing 100 punches, 50 for each other, or maybe more. And Castillo was throwing more punches. You could say that Juan was throwing maybe a little bit less punches, but he managed to land a couple more than Castillo in the fifth round, which I believed, and I just thought there was more to it than that. So I thought the fifth round was for Juan, and then you come to round 6, and Juan just comes in and just attacks him. Letterman already has reported the scores, as he's given it 48-47. He also gave Juan the fifth round as well, so that's something there. So we come to the sixth round, and surprise maybe, it wasn't as shockingly terrible than I thought, because funny or not, Juan finally gets some offensive turns here. He's finally putting in some good attacks here. And again, that's mostly it. Like, Juan finally does manage to get so much good offense in the fight, manages to scare him off, and manages, again, there is clinches, but he manages to duck out some punches here. And there was a moment in the sixth round where I thought there was a back to the head by Castillo, and then he throws uppercuts, and then Juan charges him straight into the ropes, and then gets another uppercut hit by Luis and clinch. Like, that's the thing you're seeing. Like, there's uppercuts, there's body punches, but again, there's nothing much to say about it. It was an interesting round, and same thing for round 7, where Juan just finally comes in, and again, he manages to actually up the hands as best he could, throws his good punches, and Castillo would come back. So they were mostly trading punches. By the end of the 7th round is over, they already report Trinidad versus Mayorga on October the 2nd. Whatever happened to those old days? Like, every time a round comes to an end, they're promoting us, another fight happening. Guys, whatever happened to those moments? It just stinks that HBO and Showtime boxing is dead. It's crazy. And by the way, guys, the 7th round was crazy, where you have Castillo missing a punch, and then you had that huge right there, and another couple other punches left. So Juan was on fire in those rounds. And then by the end of round 7, it all went downhill. Because by the start of round 8, it was all Castillo. Castillo had it. He had it. He had round 8. He might have not had round 9, as if maybe, but it is somewhat down that line. Who knows? And but obviously he dominated. He had round 10. He had round 11. Juan was getting pushed into those last rounds so devastatingly that I even barely decided to give Juan round 12 for the heck of it and scored it a 115 to 113 for Luis to win that fight. That's all I would have to say about that, because the entire of these last rounds were such utter domination. It wasn't like that all of these rounds were dominated. A lot of these rounds were pretty close, that you would have given some majority rounds to Juan if you wanted to. So it's not that bad depending on anything else. I wouldn't say the judges' scorecards are the worst, because everyone had their own opinions. But of course, guys, the only problem is the fight itself. Again, there were punches, there were stuff being thrown in this fight, and again, there were a lot of punches, ducks, this he-who tolerance, this or that. And as the end of the round is over, they're already showing a video footage of a close-up facial expression for the Robert Allen and for the Bernard Hopkins. They show a close-up face. Wait, they showed us, they show a close-up of Robert Allen. It's so, like, I don't know. Like, guys, I remember that, so guys, the announcers do talk about after the end of the round, stating that Mills Lane inadvertently pushed Hopkins through the ropes out of the ring when Hopkins strained his ankle, and then they second fought the fight a year later, and the canvas went 5 different times. He knocked out Allen 5 different times in the second fight, ruled him knockout, and KO'd in the second fight a year later in 99, and humiliated Robert Allen. And they'll see what he can do tonight, and man, oh man, it's not going to be good. And then they show this awesome, wild screenshot, and oh, it's so crazy. But, of course, that's the build-up. So they're trying to build up if Robert Allen has been a different person for the last 5 years, and they go on. So the remainder of the rounds was just mostly Allen losing it all. And even Letterman had it after the end of round 9. He had it 86 to 85 for Castillo. And again, the remainder rounds were devastating. They even came out from round 10, and he was just putting on the money work. He was attacking him from ropes, body punches. It's crazy how they even kept Juan in the fight, because he was getting demolished so bad that it looked like Castillo was trying to end it all. They cut backstage for Allen warming up for his punches, trying to get his title win victory. They have a guy in the crowd going for beatbox and a guy with a yellow hat, and they're just trying to hype up his fighter. It's surprising. And then they hype up with Hopkins doesn't get any people rapping music with him. Hopkins is just having a calm day, sparring some jabs. So, like, they're already building up their fight after this fight. That's all I have to say. And then they come into the remainder of 2 rounds to go. And again, with all this being said, there wasn't much to it, because again, Castillo was landing more punches, and probably maybe 50% of his punches were thrown. So, of course, the final round, Juan did try to recover it as best he could. He managed to get some stuff done in the fight, but again, Castillo was managing to get some punches thrown in at times. But of course, the fight went on as it is, and they just picked up Castillo, and that was the end of the fight. And And as it is, Letterman gave out rounds 1, 5, 6, and 7 for Juan, with a score of 116 to 112 for the remainder rounds for Castillo to win. I had it similar than Letterman, except I gave the 12th and final round for Juan just for the heck of it. Judges' scores with Dobby Shirley had it 115 to 113. Dwayne Ford 116 to 112, and Adelaide Bird 117 to 111. Winner by unanimous decision, Luis Castillo. Wow, wow, wow. Luis Castillo finally wins back his titles again, and man, he is on fire. Unfortunately, considering Juan in 2005 would score some knockout wins and other stuff by 2006, his loss for the WBC light welterweight title fight against Vivian Harris in elimination, and his IBO fight a year later against Ricky Hatton, when Ricky Hatton was 43-1 last year after he lost against Mayweather, that would end his career, and that was it. As for Luis Castillo, well, he would manage to recover his career as best as he could. But unfortunately, by the start of 2005, after winning fights against Casamero, Julio Diaz, his Diego Corrales fights in 2005 were the stunners of craziness. And his loss against Ricky Hatton in June of 2006, months before Hatton was 42-0 and got him 43-0, and the Mayweather thing, well, yeah. That was the end of Castillo's career for the next several years. By 2014 is just wins and losses. So that's all we have to say about that, as in case. Bernard Hopkins versus Robert Allen in their third fight for Tribute. The Tribute fight, ladies and gentlemen, is here. The trilogy fight is here. These guys are building it up for the big blockbuster. And guys, there's so many fights on YouTube, such as Old School Boxing. There's one that's actually an hour and 14 minutes long. And again, the graphics of the Old School Boxing does better, even though it's 47 minutes long. Well, technically, I really can't explain it. So Hopkins in red and gold, red and black for Allen. And Allen's name does show with red colors and white belt line. Again, gold and red color on for Hopkins and gold. So that's all you have to know. This fight, guys, is the worst. This trilogy fight, guys, this isn't the worst trilogy of all time. Yes, I might put it as my top 5 worst. But I can almost say this should be maybe top 10. Maybe number 6. I can almost change it right now because there's other trilogies out there that are a lot worse than this. But again, guys, this one hits me. And not in a good way. So in the first round, again, so a southpaw, Robert Allen is a southpaw fighter, so he did try to attack Hopkins on the way in the first round in some moments and tries to knock him off the rope. And then when he sometimes backs up, he doesn't control his balance as much, and Hopkins is holding his stance is perfect. And even when Allen stops charging into him, he just decides to back up a little bit. Joe Cortez is the referee, by the way. And again, this fight was not much of a fight. Now, Robert Allen is 5'9.5", 73 reach advantage, which is kind of surprising, considering Hopkins is a 75 reach advantage. And he's 6'1". Maybe not at that time, but still, that's what he was. So this entire fight was turning into a dirtiness. These guys were just. It was guys. These fights, guys. Luis and Juan did had clinches, jabs, and other stuff. It wasn't a bad fight. It wasn't. It wasn't. I just didn't. Like they were fighters. They were winning rounds, maybe midway through for Juan, but and even though mostly they were doing good job, yes, they were clinching a lot, but at least they weren't playing as dirty. Yes, there were times that they were back of the heads and other parts of the fight, but I didn't find it bad for them. Hopkins and Allen were just so distraught that with only 30 seconds left of the fight, you have Hopkins getting his left arm caught on by Allen, and he's trying to throw right body punches at him as he's going forward, pushing him to the back of the ropes. Cortez tells him to break, and as he does, Robert Allen throws a punch to him, and Joe just warns him for that, and of course, Allen is just telling him not to while putting his gloves on the referee's shoulders. So, and it's so crazy because as the referee Joe Cortez continues with 23 seconds left of the fight, Robert Allen puts his right glove out like this, telling him to continue like this, continue. And friggin' Hopkins doesn't want none of it because he's saying, hey, you want to tap? Hey, right here, right here. Like he wants to touch gloves with him, but Bernard's not taking it. Hopkins is not taking it. He just scares him like this just to give him a crazy time and just to scare him a little bit. So it just goes to show you Robert Allen had no business in that ring. And Hopkins, well, Allen throws a two-punch combination of a right-left, misses, and Hopkins just goes under him to clinch him, push him to the ropes with 10 seconds left. So by the end of the first round, you can already tell that this was going to be a horrible night if this fight doesn't end by knockout. Again, Hopkins, not a knockout artist. He's not going to be in the knockouts anymore. So that's what we're seeing here. So by that first round, you can tell bad things are going to happen. It's just so terrible that even coming into the second round, both guys would try to level each other as best they could. But again, it wasn't much of a fight. Like, there was a moment with 1 minute, 30 seconds left of the fight where Hopkins manages to duck a right and then go for less and start punching Allen over, and Allen just stumbles onto the ropes, but no knockout, and then hits him again a bunch of times. Who knows if there were any body punches? He hits him again, and Robert tries to swing a right, and then he stumbles and trips to the ground and hits the canvas. But of course, it was a dive, but again, it was an accidental slip. And then they're going clockwise. Like, Hopkins is the one doing the defensive work. He's going clockwise while Allen is standing in the middle of the ring trying to go clockwise, counterclockwise, or he's going to go southpaw, orthodox style. So, yeah, Hopkins was just dominant in this entire fight. And guys, I don't want to get into it too much because it was bad. The only good round for mostly Allen was round 3 and round 8. All the other rounds, including a round 5 knockout, I mean, not knockout, or, oh my God, I can't even talk straight. Yeah, boy, sorry about that. Like, it did say that Allen was down in round 7, and Allen was penalized for a point for a low blow. So you can tell this was crazy. Now, Allen would actually get some work done in and try to scare some punches away from him in the third round and starts to get some jabs, push to the rope. Hopkins didn't get much done in that fight. And of course, he was charging in, getting some headbutts in here. So it was a good round for Allen. And come the fourth round, Hopkins just comes in like never before. And guys, I want to talk about the other problems in the fourth round and such. Again, the first couple rounds were more of my talking about stuff. You just watch the fight yourself and you'll see how bad it is. But the referee giving out warnings to each fighter. And with 30 seconds into the fifth round, Allen comes in. I guess he might have thrown a tiny jab or something because I didn't see a heavy punch. But Hopkins just bends over and the referee comes out of nowhere and deducts. It's so ridiculous. He deducts him, I guess, 1 point. Jeez. Like, sheesh. It was just, it was crazy. And guys, I guess the timer continued because no one paused the fight. Maybe they did, but the clock on the HBO Sports clock on the bottom right of the screen didn't show the clock stopping. Or maybe it did, but I don't think it did. So they went on and pushed their way through, but Hopkins was just the better person in that round. So he scores a 10-8 round for that fight. And that's about it. After round 6, again, with mostly utter boredom, it wasn't much of a fight for me to say, man, why did they even build this up? Yeah, maybe he should have stepped out of the fight. He should have, because guys, through other multiple rounds, I will have to say this. Like, guys, after 6 rounds, they do show us the HBO Sports of punches through 6 rounds, and I was shocked. Like, guys, I knew Allen threw 100 punches or more. I knew Hopkins might have thrown 100 punches or more to over, but I read it wrong. After 6 rounds, Hopkins landed 56 out of 182 punches, 31%. Robert Allen landed 26 punches out of 245 thrown, with a percentage of 11%. Like, that is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And at this moment, guys, it's ridiculous. Like, Bernard Hopkins, undisputed champion. And by the way, guys, after he became IBF champion almost a decade ago, he already was fighting for his 18th title defense for his IBF belt. And one of those 18 title fight defenses was a no contest. By the way, Harold Lederman actually did not give the 3rd round to Allen, which I thought Allen did win the fight of the 3rd round. I just gave it to him for the heck of it. Because he needs he needs any round to be close enough. So not even 30 seconds into the 7th round, Lederman gave all rounds to him, which is kind of funny because it even does show that he did deduct a point in round 5 as a 10-8, so it's 50 to 60 to 53. With 30 seconds into the 7th round, Allen tries to throw a right punch thrown out by Hopkins, and Robert Allen gets hit by it. His right foot is flying through the air while he loses his balance. He hits the canvas like he's in a cinema movie, like cinema photography or something, because Robert Allen gets hit so bad that his right foot leaves off the ground and his left foot spins 180 and he loses his balance while getting punched midair, hits the canvas so hard, and down goes Robert. It's one of the craziest knockouts. It was one of the craziest knockouts ever. It was crazy. So another 10-8 score for Hopkins. It's ridiculous. It was crazy. He finally gets back up and it's like, oh boy, the fight's over. Hopkins still has the knockout power in him. Guys, don't get me wrong. Bernard Hopkins from 1988 to 2004, he had knockout. He still did. But again, guys, I think by the end of this year was over of 2004, that was a whole different ballgame. So he does charge in, tries to attack Allen as best he could. He uses most of his energy to come in, but unfortunately he couldn't. The referee had to stop while he was under the ropes at one point, or he was ducking under at the ropes to try to escape. And they show crazy replay angles of his knockout. It was crazy. Again, guys, the knockout punch was the best. And by the way, Robert Allen in that round scored 7 out of 24 punches, while 30-69 for Hopkins. So yeah, that had to be the most dominant round for Hopkins. Not because of the knockout, but mostly he was throwing more punches in that round than ever. And again, guys, by the remainders of round 8, guys, it is a little bit funny for me because we do finally. I think Hopkins used a lot of his energy because he took his time. He didn't throw as much as he should. And Robert Allen did manage to try to squeak away as best he could. And he does manage to try to settle in some fair deals at some point. So it wasn't like round 8 had to be his better round of the entire fight. With only 45 seconds left of the fight, with everything else, I was thinking to myself, man, he might win this. And then Bernard Hopkins comes back and throws some jabs or something. And Robert, again, guys, Robert was off the offensive line, defensive for Hopkins. They're going clockwise. Sometimes they go counterclockwise a lot. So, and again, I never seen a lot of interesting punches half the time, but it was a good round for him. After that round is over, they cut backstage for Oscar De La Hoya next to his thing known as GoldenBoyPromotions.com. So there's a board of him with GoldenBoyPromotions.com. So that right there is crazy. They do show a great replay of Robert Allen throwing a great left punch and hitting Hopkins. I think Hopkins got really tired after the 7th round trying to finish the fight off. They show another right punch landed by Robert that did land on Hopkins, but again, after that, round 9, 10, 11, 12 were the utter of getting beaten up because, again, Hopkins just eventually went on. And by the way, guys, while doing that, this would be the only round 1 as Letterman would give round 8 to Allen. So, of course, by round 9, everything was going downhill for everyone thinking, what are they going to do? Are they going to get stuff done? At the end of the day, I really can't say much about this fight. It was just an utter dominant performance for everyone. And by the 10th round and the championship round of round 11, like the rounds were winding down as much as they did. And again, I it's hard for me to talk about it because there wasn't much to it than that. Because at the end of the day, they weren't really. It just seemed like Hopkins just was too tired and he didn't want to accidentally make a mistake and lose the fight. I guess that was his reason because I guess he used up all his energy and never ended the fight. And this 12-round fight became an abysmal trilogy after their no contest fight and utter dominance for the second fight for Hopkins. People were like, why would we have this trilogy fight? So seeing it go 12 rounds the distance, I just gave it all up. I just didn't feel like watching the last 3 rounds, and I was just watching highlights of it. And again, the fight was going on as just Hopkins was just landing on punches after him. And again, he was just doing everything right from clockwise to counterclockwise, middle ring. It was just devastating. It was a devastating performance for everyone. So I had the scores 118 to 108. 2 of them had it 119 to 107, just like Letterman, which is surprising. One judge had it 117 to 109. So technically, at the end of the day, it wasn't much of a performance, but it was just utterly tough for me to understand what I was watching. But considering we're about to come to 1 hour of this podcast, the only last thing I can say is this fight was not good. It was not a good trilogy whatsoever. It might not be the worst trilogy match, but it's one of the hateable matches of the time. Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Sturm for the WBO World Middleweight Championship. So they show us promo packages of their careers, buildups of heavy knockout punches, heavy duty hitters. Felix Sturm going for a second title defense. They show great knockout footage wins for Felix Sturm, unbelievable knockouts for Oscar De La Hoya. They're hyping this up like it's no tomorrow. These guys are on the breaking point. These guys are devastating. They cut out to HBO as they finally show the 12-round middleweight championship. Again, the WBO. So 3 years from now, until 2007, we can say if Oscar De La Hoya wins, he will be a 6 weight class champion if this fight happens in 2007. And they've already sponsored out Budweiser, King of Beers. And that's about it. They don't sponsor nothing else. Sorry about that, guys. So like I said, we joined back, and of course they don't show us commentators of Emmanuel Stewart versus James Brown. Not the James Brown, just a different James Brown. While with the New York State Athletic Commission, they're going to have, guys, the Nevada State Athletic Commission is going to have a heck of a night. While Sturm's promoter, Claus Peter Cole, those two are going to fight big after this fight. Because this is crazy. So, guys, the fight generated as a $380,000 pay-per-view buy with $19 million of pay-per-view with revenue. Like I said, with HBO commentators of Jim Lampe, Roy Jones Jr. Again, like I said, we do have Emmanuel Stewart, and again, a new guy that's not the James Brown, and an unofficial score of Harold Lederman have already put out. So Lampe and Jones Jr. are outside the ring, and mostly we do have our announcer buddies. They're up over there for James Brown and Emmanuel. They're having their own talks and such. They cut to Jim Lampe. And by the way, guys, I didn't know that Jim Lampe was involved in the Times Square show last year ago. His voice was so different when I watched that. Oh, and by the way, Larry Merchant is also here. I do love Larry Merchant, even though he does have his own opinions on what he talks about. Sometimes he might offend people, and then there's times that he might be telling the truth. So he has his own talk, and again, I'm not going to explain everything he talks about. And then as he's done talking, Jim Lampe finally gets to talk back. He turns to his right to talk to Roy Jones. So again, guys, Roy Jones is already trying to come off his career. It's so questionable, but again, who knows? So the tail of the tape does show Sturm is 6 feet tall, 25 years old. His arm length, just like De La Hoya, are 24. They're both 160 pounds even. De La Hoya is 31 years old, 5'10" and a half. And again, guys, this is the first time he's ever went to 160 pounds, so it makes you wonder how good De La Hoya is. So the unified rules is no 3 knockdown rules. Only referee can stop fight with scorecards after 4 rounds. You cannot be saved by the bell in any round. So if the fight does go 4 rounds, the scorecards do go 4 rounds. They'll go to a technical decision if so. So those rules are pretty good. Because at the end of the day, why would these rules even exist? So we go cut up to Michael Buffer after all boxers get into the ring, and of course, he's wearing his great white suit. He announces Oscar De La Hoya, and the screen shows that this is his first fight at middleweight. So with 36, 29 knockouts, 3 losses. And guys, I love the tape. They say his professional record. They show the board, the information of his first fight. Like, guys, those were the good old days of boxing. Like, that's... Felix Sturm, 20 wins, 9 knockouts, and it says he's formerly known as Adnan Katak. Great. That's it. So anyway, guys, the fight starts off as both fighters come in and so De La Hoya's wearing white. Red belt line and black for Sturm. And the first round starts out pretty good. I will say this though, guys. Oscar De La Hoya, I will say though, is interesting. Because even after the fight, you can see Bernard Hopkins is watching this on TV with a bunch of boys, and they're seeing the first 2 rounds. Like, the first round of the fight was pretty damn good. Like Oscar De La Hoya. And even in the fight, the announcers are like, wow, what great performance for this guy. Oh, his body level. Oh, man. He's like, oh, man, this is his first time at weight. He's throwing body punches like never before. It just makes you wonder. And Sturm could not land out any good punch whatsoever. So it was interesting in the first round where you see De La Hoya just throwing punches. He misses a right, and even Sturm throws rights. And even after the bell rings, Sturm, for some reason, raises his hand for some reason, like he won the round. And then it cuts to camera with De La Hoya also pounding his, I think it was him pounding his glove. For some reason, did it show him pounding his glove? Because I know Sturm went on. Wait a minute. No. The bell rung. Sturm raised his hands. It cuts back to De La Hoya trying to sit to his corner, and then they cut back to Sturm pounding himself like he won the round. Again, we don't know why, and to be honest, again, who knows? So, again, guys, with all this being said, guys, they even had to bring in an interpreter as Hens hauling the interpreter because, like I said, Felix Sturm's crew trainer of Michael Tim and the cut man Karl Heinz New are German, so they have to start talking. And you know what's funny? Guys, I was really shocked. I didn't know this existed. So De La Hoya's corner is Floyd Mayweather Sr., the trainer, cut man Joe Chavez. I'm thinking to myself, really? I was really shocked that Floyd Mayweather Sr. was training De La Hoya for this fight. Even though 3 years in the future, in 2007, De La Hoya is going to fight Floyd Jr. That right there is ridiculous. So by the second round, guys, I will say, though, guys, the second round really kind of became a surpriser. Like, people believe that Letterman did give the second round, and other people will never know the scorecards to be sure for everyone else other than the Letterman. I gave it for round 2 for De La Hoya. for a couple reasons. One is the beginning part of the first minute of the fight, he was throwing body punches, he was throwing jabs to back him off while Sturm's gloves are down. And yes, he did throw a couple punch combination from high to low. And of course, there were times there. Guys, when we talk about Oscar De La Hoya, you do have to talk about how many punches he's been landing downstairs. Guys, it's been a long time since I said that word, throwing punches upstairs and downstairs, that I don't want to talk about stuff like crosses, uppercuts, or other things, because a lot of other people are doing it, so I'm trying to come up with my own ideals of what I'm talking about. That's why every time people say looping right or looping left, I just call it the Deontay Wilder, just to make it interesting. Almost like how WWE just calls it their pedigree. It's like, or even if someone did a DDT, someone would call it a what the hell finish for ECW. Like, I'm just saying, a lot of finishers are crazy. So the second reason I do say it is because of De La Hoya. He was throwing great body punches, and he was doing a good job keeping contact in the fight. Now, Sturm was landing good punches, and he was giving good punches thrown on to De La Hoya. And even coming into the last minute, he was starting to attack him on, and clinch him is good. Now, it was a close round, don't get me wrong, but I believe De La Hoya kind of had enough, just enough, to win that round. Like, maybe the last minute might have been tough enough because Sturm did come back, throwing punches at the end, and then the last 10 seconds, De La Hoya starts throwing punches back to him. But again, I can't say much about that. By the way, guys, the referee for this fight is Vic Draculich. So they cut backstage where it shows Bernard Hopkins drinking some drinks for everyone else in the gang. They're already pointing out, seeing this great performance. It's like, man, the first round was good. And even though the second round was close enough, I gave it to De La Hoya. I gave round 2 to De La Hoya. You can give it to Sturm. Depends. Because De La Hoya was throwing... Guys, I feel like Sturm threw no more than 50 punches in the second round, and probably more than ever. Because, of course, even after I gave De La Hoya the second round, the punch statistics said 82 punches thrown, 16 landed for De La Hoya, while Sturm landed 19 punches. 3 more. But the punches he thrown were 54. So that made me confused. Because I was thinking to myself, well, how many of those punches De La Hoya landed were in the body? Because, guys, I was expecting De La Hoya might have landed 20 punches, or even maybe 20 or 30 punches, I thought. While Sturm, yes, Sturm might have landed 20 punches, which is accurate, but he wasn't throwing a lot of punches like De La Hoya was in round 2. So I guess Letterman was correct of giving that round to Sturm, even though, again, 19 punches landed out of 54 and 16 landed in 82 for De La Hoya. Yeah, it just goes to show you, that's crazy. So me giving the round to De La Hoya was kind of an icebreaker there. So it just goes to show you that sometimes these fights can be really close for that fighter to win, but then you look at the statistics and you're like, wow, Sturm won that round? Crazy. So pretty much, take that for what you will. And don't get me wrong, guys, Letterman wasn't involved with the whole scores. He wasn't talking to him. Letterman would go on and for the heck of it, because Letterman did give De La Hoya that second round. So technically you can tell. My point is, guys, I thought De La Hoya landed more than 16 punches, but I guess some of the body punches might have hit here, hit there. It's hard to tell what type of body punches we're trying to hit here. Is it trying to come from here or here? Because it depends on the punches, and depends on how you're blocking the punches. If you get hit here, and sometimes it depends on the low blows to the belt line. That's what we're trying to find. So I guess maybe De La Hoya didn't land a lot of punches than I thought. So we come to the third round, guys, and with the third round coming in, De La Hoya, sheesh. It's funny because the third round was a pretty good round for Sturm. Because at this moment, guys, it is funny. You can say whatever about this one. Because Felix Sturm managed to attack De La Hoya, put him in a good clutch of punches, and for the entirety. And De La Hoya had to push him out of the way a bunch of times and try to get out of the way as best he could. So you can tell that De La Hoya was not as good in his prime as he was 10 years ago, but man, he had something. But De La Hoya was just not into that round as much than you thought. Like, don't get me wrong, guys. The third round is just like the second round. Like, I will say this, though, guys. The third round is similar than the second round, where, of course, De La Hoya was still throwing a lot of punches. Like, I think the third round, De La Hoya threw more punches than the second round, which I was right. And Felix Sturm was throwing more punches he did than in the second round, and he was landing more. So, and those punches he were landing were more clean to look at than anything else. So it was an obvious third round. There was a moment where a great jab by Sturm in one point and another jab in a left. Every time De La Hoya tries to throw a left jab, Sturm lands one back at him. And every time he even tries to hit a jab, connects on De La Hoya tries to throw one back. Yeah, it was tough. And like I said before, guys, the fourth round was a good round for De La Hoya. He did finally manage to get some stuff done and manages to try to throw out great body punches. And again, he wasn't tired until coming into the fourth round. So he managed to outbox him as best he could in the fourth round. Like, the fourth round might have not been a better round for De La Hoya, but he did manage to try to throw a good amount of punches in that fight. So the fourth round was pretty close. Sturm was both Sturm and De La Hoya did manage to get a good amount of punches landed on each other, and De La Hoya again was the aggressor in the first four rounds, even though round three was clearly Sturm. The fourth round, you can say Sturm might have won the round. It was good enough, but De La Hoya did have aggressiveness for the fourth round, but depending on how many punches you landed is how much you win the fight. And guys, you know what's crazy? Guys, I wish boxing... Guys, you know what I would do as boxing? I would put out two judges in one each corner and have the Kaup you box declare as the third judge, as a computer to declare the third judge. And screw the AI bullcrap. Just do the computer stuff like they did back then. Just simple, wholesome, non-inappropriate bullcrap. That's what they should have done. And just have that to be the third judge and know, oh, that person won the fight. Because even video games is accurate. So that's what you should do. So by the end of round 5, everything else, it's just utter heartache fighting. Like, they managed to get some stuff in as best they could. And even in the 5th round, I couldn't say much for De La Hoya. Like, he managed to land a good amount of punches in the 5th round and get some stuff done. But, of course, after that, by the end of round 5, with a score of 4-1, it was going to be a different ball game. Because in round 6, and by the way, guys, it is interesting because with me and Letterman having it 49-46, you can have it 48-47 for De La Hoya. Or even 3-2 for him. So you can have it 48-47 for Sturm either way. But all we know is by round 6, Sturm finally had it. De La Hoya was tired. Everything De La Hoya tried to do in the round was just utter painful. De La Hoya was just on the defensive line. He was throwing Deontay Wilder punches, heavy punches, body punches, but again, he couldn't. He was getting punches landed, but again, Sturm, they were off trading punches. So by round 6, after it was over, Bernard Hopkins is looking at this fight and talking to some dudes with him. The camera cuts backstage to him, and he's not liking the fight any more than it is, and he's already now questioning about this entirety of an undisputed fight with De La Hoya. And again, this isn't a 4-belt weight class at this moment. This is just... This is still a 3-belt era. But they are trying to build this up for him and De La Hoya. Now, of course, De La Hoya did manage to throw a good amount of punches in the 6th round. And again, Sturm started to throw a tiny bit more and started to get more in that 6th round. But as at this moment, after 6 rounds of competition, the score is 4-2. Again, you can have it for Sturm if you want to. It would be fair. But again, guys, after this moment, round 7 would be an utterly disastrous round. Like, Sturm, guys, I wouldn't say there were a lot of clinches, maybe a little bit of clinches and accidental headbutts of going forward and other stuff, but there was just a lot of accidental moments. So this fight wasn't as terrible than Robert Allen and Hopkins 3, but again, there were moments I thought to myself, man, what a dominant performance for De La Hoya. And then you come to the last 6 rounds and it's like, wow, Sturm has it. Like, Oscar is trying to throw these heavy punches. He misses by a mile. And De La Hoya, again, is trying to... Again, there's just nothing good for it because Felix Sturm finally managed to come out. Now, again, guys, throwing more punches in the fight were pretty much there. But again, guys, the only thing keeping Felix Sturm winning the fight is mostly landing jabs. And even though he was on the jabbing point. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. De La Hoya was throwing a lot of jabs in the fight, but he wasn't on the landing point. He was just throwing body punches and landing them. Joe De La Hoya Sr., also the father and such, is out there with him. They cut to round 8, and again, he does manage to try to get some stuff done. De La Hoya does try to manage to... He does manage to try to even stuff up here, but again, Felix is still on the jabbing point. He's on the breaking point for the 8th. So it was a pretty decent round for both. And it seemed like De La Hoya might have held off a little bit in that 8th round. Sturm, again, he was not handling a lot of punches thrown in that 8th round. So I did believe De La Hoya barely won that round. He barely won that round, in my opinion. So, by that moment, again, like De La Hoya kind of did have round 8 there. But again, he wasn't on the breaking point as he was. Like, De La Hoya managed to squeak through these rounds as best he could by being more of a throwing more punches than Sturm. So, again, Harold Letterman did give round 8 to Sturm. Take that for what you will. And by the start of round 9, again, De La Hoya's throwing jabs. He does try to throw a forward punch, body punch combination. But then Felix Sturm comes in and just starts trying to hammer in punches. And he does manage to connect great jabs in the fight. And surprisingly, he managed to put in a decent, good effort as just throwing perfect punches. Like, he did manage to throw good punches cleanly, and he gave a hard time for Oscar in that round as well. And at this moment, it's like, what are we going to do here? Because Felix Sturm is finally demolishing him. He's coming back. He wins the 9th round. Now we're coming to round 10. Well, guess what? Bernard Hopkins is getting interviewed by someone on HBO. And of course, guys, he's already now questioning his own. And I'm not going to say, guys, I'm not going to point out what Bernard said, but at this moment, he's already now questioning about this build-up for him and De La Hoya. It's like the first few rounds were like, wow, De La Hoya is so good. His first time in the body work. And again, commentators, everyone are talking about how this is his first time in weight class and such. And man, he's doing good. But now, oh boy, now this weight he's putting on was a waste of time. Not good. So yeah, you can tell. So we come to round 10, guys, and the moment does kind of swiver because we do come to round 10 where De La Hoya charges through and starts trying to throw punches in the first 30 seconds. And he does get a lot of offensive done in that first minute. And then Felix Sturm comes in and just starts trying to hammer away some good punches here or there. And he does manage to actually trying to charge in and throw multiple left jabs, and De La Hoya tries to throw a couple punch swings and misses. So the 10th round was a good championship round, and people thinking, man, Oscar might come back. And Oscar was coming back. Like, don't get me wrong, guys. Even though Oscar was getting tired, he was still on the breaking path of throwing a lot of punches. So Oscar, even though people don't believe that these later rounds were good for Oscar, he was still doing a damn good job. You can't hardly say he wasn't. He was still coming back as hard as he was during that first minute. And that first minute of the 10 round kind of made me thought to myself, pretty much that might have been close for a De La Hoya. Of course, they don't show us the punches totaled, but I had it for De La Hoya winning round 10. So at this moment, he's already gotten like 6 rounds, 1 for 10. Not even 10 or so seconds into the run. He does try to throw some punches. He throws a interesting right punch above the red belt line of Sturm, and referee Vic gives him a warning to keep the punches high. And again, there's not a lot of dirtiness in the fight, but it's rare to find them. So the last 2 rounds were definitely Felix Sturm just coming in, throwing the punches in as best he could. But De La Hoya, even though he was tired, he was still doing a damn good job in the first minute of the 11th round. Don't get me wrong, Felix Sturm can come back during the end of the last minute of each round and finish it off with a bang. But De La Hoya was still on the breaking path of doing crazy destruction, and he was still doing a damn good job. So he wasn't as all controversial for what Mean says. So he was still doing a damn good job for the time that he was doing this. But of course, Felix Sturm comes in, and he's just doing everything he can. Now and guys, this is the first time I realized this. In the 11th round, I don't know when this was. Sometimes Sturm was in the middle of the ring and Oscar tries to go clockwise, counterclockwise, and clockwise mostly. And then Sturm would back up and have Oscar take the middle rope, and then he would go clockwise, and then he would go counterclockwise. And so I had to go back in other footages. So I wasn't paying attention much of what clockwise they were going, except clockwise. So counterclockwise, sometimes De La Hoya would go in the middle ring, and sometimes Sturm would go in the middle ring. So again, both were evening themselves up as pretty much. So the 11th round was a good round for Sturm, and De La Hoya didn't really throw a lot of punches. Like, both of them barely, I don't know, I think they throwed like under 100, like 90 punches, over maybe under 90 punches, but most of the punches were landed by Sturm. So with all that being said, with a good round for everyone else here, And again, guys, we come to the 12th and final round. Letterman has it 105 to 104 for Sturm winning. I have it 6 rounds to 5, meaning 105 to 104 for De La Hoya. And De La Hoya, there were a lot of craziness. Now, the crowd were loving it for what it was. De La Hoya is trying to finish this fight off as best he could. And just to let you guys know, Felix Sturm, again, has 20 wins, 9 knockouts. So he's not a knockout fighter, but he does try to finish off as best he could. Again, as a German fighter, he's not terrible. And he wouldn't be terrible for a long time, as he would go on to win more champions. So, for what he's done in this fight that night, the final 1 minute 30 seconds was crazy. Where De La Hoya is just throwing punches, hitting the arm of Sturm, not landing, but he's still throwing by punches. Every time he does, he backs up and then he goes again. He does. Guys, he's countering his move. Like, he's telegraphing his body punches over and over again while exposing himself, which means the odds of Felix Sturm landing a good, perfect punch on him is possible. And there are times that happen. So the crowd are on their feet here. They're chanting on. The last 30 seconds, Sturm is coming in. He's landing perfect clean punches, jabs here, jabs there. And both of them are tired. They're coming in. Sturm tries to back away, tries to dodge punches from De La Hoya. He's doing this, like Sturm is just dancing around, and De La Hoya is trying his best to get stuff done here. The bell rings, ding, ding. Sturm gets that round, in my opinion. De La Hoya's father's clapping like this. They cut backstage to Bernard Hopkins, and everyone is just in an interesting frenzy of what's happening here. Like, they were trying to build this up for a De La Hoya and Hopkins fight, and now we might not get it. Again, guys, I will say, though, I will give this fight 4 stars out of 5. Even though Letterman has it 115 to 113, I have it 114 to 114. And to be honest, looking at some of the scores and the punches landed in CompuBox, yeah, my scorecard might have not been that accurate. So Sturm might have had the fight won, but again, guys, when you see how many punches and mostly punches that you might have seen from De La Hoya, it's hard to say if he even deserved the majority of the rounds. So, who knows? By the way, guys, fun fact, one of the judges, Mike Guiana, who would also be one of the other judges like Dave Moretti and Paul Smith, all judges scored it the same by unanimous decision. We'll get to that in a moment. Mike Guiana is 77 years old, and they show a graphic of him also involved with the fight that he judged from the Bernard Hopkins versus Robert Allen 1 fight, when he scored it 29 to 28 through 3 rounds for Hopkins, for Allen. So Mike Guiana actually not just judged this De La Hoya and Sturm fight, but he actually judged the Hopkins and Allen 1 fight. So good job for HBO pointing that part out there. So, and they even show a graphic of how old Mike is. So, hey, good for him. And I'm not going to question the 77-year-old guy for what he is. He's a veteran judge, and I'm sure his judging scores were just like similar than me. So, we can't judge any of that. So, it's kind of great. And again, they showed everything else from everyone else. Like Dave Moretti was involved with the Spinks and Judah fight, where he gave Spinks a win, and Paul Smith was involved with the De La Hoya and Vargas fight, when he had De La Hoya winning 96 to 94 until Vargas got knocked down in the 10th round or the 11th round by De La Hoya to lose. So this isn't the first time. So still, Mike Guiana, that's crazy. So anyway, the cut down, the announcer announces all 3 scores have it scored 115 to 113, where your winner by unanimous decision. and new WBO middleweight champion of the world. And Felix Sturm's trainer or promoter is doing an upset moment because, as they say, new WBO champion, Felix Sturm's promoter is like this. And then when he says new, he's like, oh, no, this is the champ. No, he's still the champion. Like, no, yeah. And so Sturm's promoter is upset, and it's going to get worse. So, yeah, all three judges scored 115 to 113 for De La Hoya is a 6-time weight class champion. Crazy. And that's how this whole show about comes to an end. Well, the last 10 or 15 or so minutes would be an interesting introduction, but I'm not going to get into that. The information we will say is interesting because Sturm's promoter, Peter Cole, would file a protest for the NSAC regarding the scoring fight. Mark Ratner, the commissioner, executive director, turned the protest down, stating there was no basis for such protest. So that right there is a shocker. As said before, Jim Lampy and Roy Jones are already in shock disbelief because, don't get me wrong, guys, like the total punch statistics are here. De La Hoya lands 188 out of 792. Sturm 234 out of 541 punches thrown total. But again, when you see how many punches thrown for De La Hoya, it makes you wonder, maybe some of those rounds in his early run and other rounds in the middle of it, maybe there's a reason why De La Hoya won some rounds. Like, I'm not saying that De La Hoya won 7 rounds to 5, but again, 6 rounds to 6 would have been close enough. But so I do question that. Like 115 and 113, these aren't the worst scorecards I've ever seen in a boxing fight, but for what it was, yeah. So they're already questioning it. They already felt that Sturm clearly won the fight by unofficial scores. Letterman again has it all the way of 115 to 113, scoring the last 6 rounds for Sturm. Again, I did have mostly round 8 and even another round around the time scored for De La Hoya. So you can't really say that the last 6 rounds were all Sturm. That I disagree with. Again, even though they did express disappointment, as De La Hoya had moments, he did say that his performance, that everything went wrong tonight. Sturm, who felt that De La Hoya been gifted the decision due to his popularity and to preserve the lucrative De La Hoya and Hopkins fight. And he said, I knew Oscar is the big name here and a great champion, but tonight I think the whole world saw who was the better fighter. Now, Sturm did become a better fighter. He was on the landing zone. And when I say landing zone, he was a jabber. He landed 112 out of 306 punch jabs, while 58 out of 398 for De La Hoya. So again, that right there can tell you that the jabs were also a factor that Sturm might have clearly won rounds. So yeah, and even power punches were 130 out of 394 for De La Hoya, 122 out of 235 for Sturm. So that right there also explains that maybe De La Hoya might have handled some of it. So 6 rounds to 6, I found that to be the fight is a draw. So I can't argue about this. De La Hoya did put on a performance. And guys, at the end of the day, guys, this one is ridiculous because I might as well play something here. Guys, I'm going to play interesting stuff here. So before we end this podcast, I'm going to find the video. Okay. So I'm going to play this clip, guys. Guys, Larry Merchant and Oscar De La Hoya had their own moments to say, and this is what he said. I'm trying to, oh my gosh, get my volume back. No, shut up. I'm trying to get my stuff back here. I am not really a pro when it comes to this. I'm proving myself.
Congratulations, Oscar, but you don't look very elated about this.
Everything went wrong tonight. Everything.
See, I told you.
I mean, what can I do? What can I say?
What do you mean by everything?
I trained as hard as I can. We did everything perfect, sparring with big guys. But I stepped in the ring and boom.
You know what?
Nothing.
You know what? That is interesting. Don't get me wrong, guys. When you're going up another weight class and you're fighting for a world title, even if it's a minor weight belt, like the WBO belt back in 2004, yes, stepping in the ring with big guys is different. But I guess when you're fighting in a title fight, your body goes somewhere else. So I can't blame De La Hoya for that.
Was this guy quicker than a normal big guy would be?
He's an ordinary fighter. I mean, he's a world champion, and he's young and he's hungry, and I give him all the respect in the world,
Definitely.
I know in my heart I can do better. I mean, people have seen me better.
Yeah, by the way, how old was De La Hoya?
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it was.
His jab certainly seemed to be effective.
Yeah, he had a wonderful jab. But I just...
Before we play the video, De La Hoya was 31 years old and Felix Sturm was 25 years old. Interesting. By the way, it said that Felix Sturm was 6 feet tall or 6'1", but on BoxRec it says he's 5'11" and a half and De La Hoya 5'11". Both of them with a 73 reach advantage, which is different, but still the height, interesting.
I just couldn't. I didn't pick it off the way we were doing in the gym. When
you came out here and it looked like you were going to try to intimidate him, send him a message, maybe even stop him in the early rounds, was that your intention?
I was hoping. I mean, every time you hope for a knockout, it sometimes doesn't come. That's the way fighters
definitely.
Think sometimes. Well, I'm going to knock him out in the first round, but he's a tough cookie. What can I say? I mean,
I think that's the thing what we're hearing here. When you try to finish a fight by knockout, it's crazy.
What I'm very disappointed at is my performance. I mean, I know I can do a lot better.
I will say, though, I do respect Oscar De La Hoya for admitting his performance because, guys, this is why. Guys, I'm starting to not understand because ever since watching Ellie Scottney defeat Mayeli Flores, and even though people are questioning her in the press conference about the scorecards and such, and yes, she's a tough person, but still great, she won the fight. Again, Oscar is doing a different thing. He's stating, he's admitting for how bad he did his performance. He could have done a lot better. And again, I'm not saying De La Hoya did as terrible as he did. He won the majority of some good rounds. Like, it was a good draw, in my opinion. So it wasn't like he was trying. He was trying his best to make it through as best he could. So I can't say it was terrible. Here's the end.
If you're disappointed with your performance, do you still want to go through with fighting Bernard Hopkins?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's...
And this is when Bernard Hopkins comes into the ring and comes near him.
I'll be very happy and satisfied tomorrow, but right now I just feel disappointed because my strategy didn't come out.
Yeah, I respect that.
Let's bring Bernard Hopkins
here he is, Bernard Hopkins.
Bernard, you spent anxious moments watching this fight.
Nice.
What did you see about Oscar in there
this is ridiculous.
The young guy that nobody knew about?
Well, first I'd like to congratulate Oscar and Floyd.
This is so dumb.
He can pull it out in the last couple of rounds. He didn't fade the 11th and the 12th, and he pulled it out. And I think that he showed championship heart. But before the Sturm come here from Germany to lay down, and I guess everybody's seen that. And but I think Oscar pulled it off with the championship rounds where everybody was expecting him.
How nervous were you about?
I wouldn't say he pulled it off. Like, guys, don't get me wrong. Again, as said before, I've had scores round 1 and barely round 2, round 4, round 5, round 8, and round 10. So the championship round of round 10, but the other last 2 rounds, he might have pulled it off, but Sturm did win the last couple rounds, so what can you expect from that?
Before they announced the result,
Well, my blood pressure went up slightly, but I'm confident, that De La Hoya in the last 3 rounds pulled it out with combinations.
Let me ask you this, Oscar. A lot of fans are unhappy here about it. Do you feel that perhaps this
I'm
was
all right
a
with
make-up decision for you? A lot of people thought you beat Shane Mosley, and a lot of people here thought that maybe you didn't win this fight. Were you nervous about it? Did you think you won the fight?
You
Well, you know
believe.
what? It's funny because
He believes he
his jab
didn't.
was dictating the pace in the first few rounds, and he has a great jab. He had a really good jab, but like I said, my performance wasn't at par, and I'm disappointed at my performance. Felt I did pull out the last rounds the way you're supposed to.
Well,
But it was a very close fight. Let's put it that way.
it was a
Thank
close
you very
fight.
much, Oscar.
And that's
Thank
the
you
best thing I
again.
can say about this.
Champ? Jim?
So to be honest, guys, my final thought about that is it's not as terrible as it is. Again, yes, his performance would have been better, but I can't really argue about that. But again, guys, I will say this entire show, even though the main event fight was better than the trilogy match of Allen and Hopkins, Castillo and Juan Lascano was a little bit better than this. Watching 36 rounds of fighting and going through fights after fights, the main event fight was a lot better than ever, even if it wasn't the fight. No one believed that he won the fight. But you know what? At the end of the day, it paid a lot of its workings. It had a great show, an interesting finale, and it did build up a good performance for the end. So they managed to move forward, and by the month of September, they would build up the next event for Bob Arum, and unfortunately, De La Hoya would get knocked out in round 9 by a knockout by Bernard Hopkins to lose all his titles. Well, his WBO title. So, yeah. So, Bernard gets the win on after his 19th title defense and his 20th sometime later and lost against, well, I guess we'll have something to discuss about that some other time. So yeah, that is the end of the show. Oscar De La Hoya is the winner of his 6th weight class champion, but it won't be the last time he'll win another title fight for the next 4 years of his career. By 2008, his career will be on point. Again, is De La Hoya one of the greatest promoters today? He is a top 10. I do put him in top 10. From Eddie Hearn to Frank Warren, and even with Bob Arum still doing better, and Don King is out of the spotlight again, so he might not be seen for again, just like Bob Arum, because both of those two are in their same age, so who knows. And with of course there's another promoter, not Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn. Well, there is others, like even another Japanese promoter I do respect as well. But again, De La Hoya, he might not have a lot to spare on, but you know what? I will give him credit. It's decently enough to look at as an interesting performance to talk about. So I really can't say much about this show other than it is what it is. The show went on as perfect, and technically they got the right winner to win the fight and went on for their whole show. So Felix Sturm would recover on his career and try to win titles as he does. So good for him. And that's about it. So thank you for watching this episode. And with that being said, we'll see you some other time next time, as I'm still trying to build off some other worked fights here. What about other promoters like Lou DeBell? Like Lou DeBell is an okay promoter, and Kathy Duval was one promoter at one point. Tom Brown, another fighter promoter I have heard of before, and others who was okay, but I wouldn't say is my cup of tea. But again, there's plenty of other promoters out there that I can say is okay, but you know what? We'll have to see who the best promoter is in top 10. If you guys got your top 10 promoters from 10 to 1, put them out there. So with that being said, congratulations for Oscar De La Hoya being the first boxer to become a weight class champion in 6 weight classes. And with that being said, thank you for watching and see you next time.